Good evening. So this video I'm gonna respond to Philip Scott video on YouTube and also Judge Joe Brown and the some of the stuff that they're talking about on Dana channel. The YouTube channel that was on here, Judge Joe Brown is on, was her name is Donna. That's the channel that was on here. But first, the Scott Phillip have a YouTube channel on here called Africa Diaspora. This guy, first of all, the amount of hatred Philip Scott have for African immigrant is huge. The contempt of the success of African immigrant that this guy have is only matched by the hatred that they received from KK. These the vehement amount of hatred and lies that Philip Scott spread about African immigrant is unbelievable. And for example, he says that some of the stuff that he see, how African immigrant come to United States with only a couple of dollars, and then the news cover how they become successful after living in this country for only a couple of years. He think that all that success of African immigrant is due to African American. Somehow he think that we owe him an apology or some kind of a gratitude, which is none of that is true. Our success, African immigrant, is due to our own sophistication, learning the system, how the system works in the United States, being educated instead of wasting our young life walking on the sidewalk, selling $2 drugs and collecting felonies. And by the time we reach age of majority or age of 18, nobody would hire us in any viable jobs because we have so much criminal records. We don't do that. That is something Scott have overlooked. And he also thinks that, which is not true, he says there are specific programs that are designed to help only immigrants. This is not true. Every program that is available in the United States is open to anyone. You just have to use your mind to apply for it and qualify it using existing rules and regulations that the government have. And the fact that African American have been in this country for over 500 years, and African immigrants just arrived here. He thinks that regardless of how many years African American have lived in this country, they cannot be held responsible. They are incapable of taking responsibility for their own life, build their own life. They can't do that without there being a guardians holding their hands for everything. He blames us, African immigrant, that the reason why we succeed because we get a free housing from the government to buy money from the government to buy a house, which is a complete lie. Every available program for first-time home buyer or money to get qualified for financing is available to anyone. Anyone, be it African American, whites, Asians, whatever. It's available to everyone as long as you qualified for what it is that the program is designed for. First, you gotta have income. Do you have income for 2-3 years? Good credit? This, of course, he thinks that we, African immigrant, or immigrant in general, were handed out freely without any qualification. Complete lie. Welfare is available for everyone. Most of the people, African American in general, more than 70% of African American relies on live off of welfare for housing, for food, shelters. He also say that we African immigrants use shelters, free shelters, free food, as if that is only available to Africans, immigrant. Shelter is available to everyone. Go to any shelters in the United States, 90 to 80% of people that live in the shelters are African Americans. His audience, the people who listen to this guy, obviously either don't know anything about what's going on in the United States when it comes to shelters, who lives in that shelter, who uses those shelter program, or he is obviously trying to fool and manipulate people who don't know much of how anything works. So the misconceptions, the fact that we succeed in this country is due to our own effort, not because of anyone else. Collectively, like Judge Joe Brown understands this very well, more than this Scott guy. Scott is not an educated person. He's not reasonable. Judge Joe Brown understands the collective effort to the struggle that is involved, coming together as a member of the community, having a discussion, planning out what it is that you need to do according to the objective that you need to reach, without demanding somebody else do something for you. There's no such thing. Nobody will do anything for you. You have to do everything that you need for yourself, collectively as individual, group of communities. Design whatever that you need, and then move forward as a community. Nobody is gonna design and provide you funded money. There's a lot of sun over here. I don't know if we can see. Oh, there you go. There's a lot of So that's what I want to say about Scott. Nothing he says on any of his channels is true. He is spreading a huge amount of hatred for everybody, for white people, for African immigrants. And he's using, initially I watched some of his videos, he is catering to the extreme end of the African American community that have huge amount of contempt for black immigrant. Black immigrant, we succeed or we fail based on our own effort. You owe us nothing. We owe you nothing, other than only thing that we share, our color of our skins. Anything beyond that, African American, he's talking about as evidence that African immigrants, when they come to the United States, they don't live in African American communities. We go and live in our own communities or go to the communities of other people. He doesn't, this should be obvious. We don't live in African American community because we want to live in peace, we want to live in security, we want to be able to live in an environment that is conducive to peace and security. None of that is possible in African American community. Look at the city and towns and states that run by African American communities. Look at Detroit. What happened to Detroit? Look at Indiana, Gary, Indiana. Look at Baltimore, Maryland. Look at Chicago. Any community that's run by African American governors, city councils, you see nothing but destructions. Every business is being driven out because there's a lot of crimes. The business is looted out of their business. People just walk in, steal whatever they want, walk out without paying. And any houses and people that live in the area, there are so much crimes and lootings and killings and assault and violence going on. Why would anyone want to live in that environment? Nobody wants to live in that environment because that is not what you want to, anyone that want to live in peace and security and prosperity, successful life. Nobody live there. You don't see even African American people that are successful, that have money, that have wealth, that have families. They don't live in that community. The reason is because of violence. Black on their own, black and black violence on their own, because of course he doesn't want to acknowledge that. He thinks every problem is somebody else is causing it. And then so of course that's why we don't want anything to do as far as living in your community. You have nothing to offer your own community. Yes, of course, nothing to offer for us. And as far as Judge Joe Brown, he was the video I watched. He is in this channel, Dana, and so there was he was arguing with some people on there, and one of the guy is basically saying that that the government should provide resources for African American. And Judge Joe Brown is saying that the black African American community need to provide resources for themselves instead of looking out for government to take care of provide resources and build structures for these people. And then there is another woman, I forget her names. She's saying that African American need to build their own country within the United States, alluding to something like Native American, how Native American have their own little reservations, embassies, something similar to embassies for a Native American. That's what she was saying, and Judge Joe Brown rightfully push back on this, saying that point to environment that's already run by African American people. In African American already have that stuff. They already have a whole state. They run the whole state, entire police department, entire state, entire budget for the whole city, for the whole state. And instead of providing education resources for their community, they steal that money. They don't fix the road, they don't fix education, they don't create viable program to educate their people, to get them into a job, they don't bring companies into their state to bring jobs and prosperity, wealth into their own community. They don't do any of that. Every states and cities and towns run by African American have become unlivable, uninhabitable. Nobody, no human beings would like to live there. Or everybody moved out of the city into the suburb, into another state, run away from them because of amount of violence, amount of vile environment that is created by the people that run in the city. And as a result, George Brown argued that the people that are running those states need to get their act together and plan out how they want their societies to succeed, instead of creating an environment or needing a funding money from the government exclusively for black people. And then when you already have that in your own state, you have done nothing with that money. You use that money to enrich yourself and your friends and your close families, and you have done nothing for your large communities of African American that live in your state. You have done nothing when it comes to schools, when it comes to housing, when it comes to safety. You make it worse, hundreds of times worse than what it was before you come into power. And so blaming immigrant, African immigrant. We didn't come here because of you. We come here because we're invited. We are coming to the United States, not as a result of your effort. So this is, I'm talking to Phillip now. You think that you somehow have done something African American. You think it's due to African American. That's why we are in this country. No, we come to we African immigrants are everywhere in the world. We are everywhere, in China, in Russia, in all the Arab countries. We live and guide our lives according to our own principles, not because of anything, whether you exist or not. I'm saying this in general, African American, whether they existed or not. Our life, our design, our goals, our progress and accomplishment have nothing to do with African American. That should be something that any of these people who listen to this Scott guy should understand. Stay tuned.